Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a brand new year. It is 2025. It is year 6 and season 6 for the Square Circle podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows. And on this episode of the Square Circle podcast, we're going to be diving into an audio reaction of Kenny Omega's message to Gabe Kidd and then Gabe Kid message to Kenny Omega. I'm so used to saying Gabriel Kidd, so that's the only little hiccup there. But I will like to say, again, welcome to 2025. 2024 was cool and amazing with ups, downs, obstacles, everything in between. Life is crazy and it just throws things at you. And sometimes you just have to navigate. You just have to live life, right? But in 2025, we're going to do things a lot more different, a lot more bigger, and make sure you wait and listen and stay tuned to my socials for a podcast coming out talking about what we're going to be doing for 2025 and beyond. But right now, we are going to be reacting to these two different videos because I have said on social media, on Twitter, and I'm not changing the tune for that, I still don't believe that we need a Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kidd. I really don't think we need it. This is more like a filler match. There's nothing for either of these gentlemen to gain from this match. If Kenny Omega loses, okay, Gabriel Kidd beat someone that's already broken goods, that are damaged goods. And then if Kenny Omega happens to get a win over Gabriel Kidd, then like, what is the point? Why? Is Kenny going to be wrestling full time? Is Kenny not going to be with AEW anymore? Is Kenny going to invest more in New Japan Pro Wrestling to go back home, as they say? What is the point of having Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega? We could see the similarities of that is Bullet Club and that people, well, fans, I should say, fans like to say that they got into Bullet Club because of Kenny, which they could definitely say that. Some people think that Kenny made Bullet Club and that like that's their favorite iteration of Bullet Club and all this stuff. However, once you leave the company because of burning bridges and bad terms and going into business for yourself, meaning him plus the Young Bucks when they were doing BTE, being the elite. I don't know why I was going to say behind the elite, but when they were doing BT and all that, it was basically going into business for themselves. And we can see that at that point, Bullet Club was already being split, and Bullet Club was having New Japan Bullet Club and then the American version of Bullet Club, which had the elite. Now, my thing is that who booked this? Why are we having this? Gabriel Kidd is a breakout star. I should keep saying Gabe Kidd. Gabe Kidd is a breakout star. Gabe Kidd, see, it sounds weird when I say it that way. Gabriel Kidd is the guy that you want to be on your team and be the antagonist and wake people up to bring the best out of them. Gabe Kidd, that's what he does. He brings the best out of his opponents. He has some really, really good matches throughout the year. And he's a no-nonsense kind of guy, and he makes you believe. And you actually get intimidated by him when he says that he's a madman. His favorite catchphrase line of, don't you know he's a madman? And so this is why I think that this match doesn't really need to happen. Kenny Omega has been on a losing streak. He had a health scare. Luckily, he is healthy. I'm hoping he's healthy and he's able to get back into the ring and get into ring shape and have a really good match and have a safe match. But Kenny Omega has not been able to get his credibility back. So why should we have Gabriel Kidd versus Kenny Omega? That is just the only thing that I question. But of course, people on the internet want to tell me that I'm wrong and I'm getting worked and this is kayfabe and this is a shoot. But we also have to look at it from a storytelling aspect. And I will say right now that I watched half of Kenny Omega's message to Gabe Kidd, and it is in Japanese because for some reason, whenever Kenny is doing New Japan stuff, he has to talk in Japanese, which I don't mind. That's a language that I eventually want to learn so that way I can sort of just translate easily if I can. But I don't know how we got to a heel Kenny Omega. This is where the elite don't understand the fundamentals of telling the story. Right now in New Japan Pro Wrestling for the whole entire year of 2024, Gabe Kidd is the antagonist. He is also the anti-hero, and he can also be a villain. This guy was going from promotion to promotion to beat people up. And then all of a sudden, here comes Kenny Omega back into New Japan Pro Wrestling. And here comes Kenny Omega to be like, hey fans, you guys might not remember me. I don't know if you guys going to show me the same kind of love, but I'm Kenny Omega and I was a big deal in New Japan. And I just want you guys to welcome me back with open arms. Like, I'm talking with management and we might have some matches coming up, blah, blah, blah. Like, being the babyface, advocating for him to be there as like, he sounded like an ambassador. I'm making him sound like an ambassador. That's not what I want to do. But the idea of that, he came in very timid like, and he's like, yeah, I would love to work with Tanahashi when he did that interview. And then all of a sudden, here comes Gabriel Kidd being face to face with Kenny Omega, and we'll get into how that happened. And then the brawl happened. Gabe Kidd is the villain at this point because he's marking his territory. That little fight that they did to hype it up, and it apparently got to the dirt sheets, and I'm like, nobody's going to get the dirt sheets, that kind of thing. But, you know, if you're the elite, you give it to the dirt sheets to sort of be like, oh, look, they broke news first. But that little brawl will tell you that Gabe Kidd is the one marking his territory to be like, you're old news, Kenny Omega. You don't need to be here. You don't need to be in my company, right? Like, that's something a villain, a antagonist, a heel would say. And then all of a sudden we get this message and Kenny Omega is playing the anime villain. Listen, in another lifetime, not really another lifetime, that's me being too exaggerated with this, but some years ago, I was a Kenny Omega fan. Now I'm just like, I'm over you. But when I was a Kenny Omega fan, I would definitely be like, oh my God, this is so cool. Oh my God, I totally get it. I can immerse myself whenever Kenny can do the anime villain type of character arc. However, you haven't been relevant in years, ever since New Japan Pro Wrestling kicked you out and kicked the Young Bucks out, and you guys got exiled from Bullet Club. So trying to bring back the anime villain just to relive memories and relive emotion, and I always say that wrestlers should always bring emotion and connect with the fans and stuff. This is not connecting, because now you are making yourself the heel. And now we're going to turn Gabriel Kidd face. Gabe Kidd don't work good as a face. Like, he could probably have, like, adorable qualities, redeeming qualities as a baby face. Who knows? But Gabe Kidd is the one that has been putting New Japan on his back, including everybody else. And here comes Kenny Omega to switch up that whole dynamic. And this is what you don't do. Writers don't even do this when they're writing their novels, to switch up the villain and the babyface in their books. We shouldn't be doing this in wrestling. Why is Kenny Omega automatically going to be an anime villain towards Gabe Kidd? Did I miss something where this needed to happen, where this transformation needed to happen? We had timid Kenny Omega come in, be like, hey guys, I'm back here, this is my home, blah, blah, blah. And then the brawl happened, and then I don't know what else, because it was like radio silence for a bit, and then now we get this. Now, the video of Kenny Omega's message to Gabe Kidd is only 2 minutes and 37 seconds long. You will be hearing the audio only, and it's going to be in Japanese. So I'm going to have to read the subtitles to you guys. So it's going to sound so choppy and it sounds so bad. And this is where it's like, I get that he has a huge fan base in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and it's only right if, to speak the language. Like, I get it. It's the same thing. Like, if I travel to Puerto Rico, I should be able to speak Spanish just so that way people could feel comfortable around me, and then we could switch it up to like Spanglish. The same thing if I were to go to Italy, like I should know Italian here and there and apply that same logic. Like, that's my logic at times, where I'm like, if I'm going to go to another place, I should at least be respectful towards their culture, their language, to learn some words, to just accommodate. That's all it is. So it's going to be really, really weird. So this is what we're going to do. I'm going to play it. I'm going to read the subtitles, and I will comment on it, because I just don't like the idea of Kenny Omega becoming the anime villain. No reason. All right, so before we play the video, the subtitle is, "There's no guarantee of a second chance in life." Why is this?
人生に二度目のチャンスがあるとは限らない。
And not everyone can be the person.
そしてみんなが小さい頃に夢見ていた。
They grew up dreaming of becoming.
自分になれるわけでもない。だが、
But there are those chosen by destiny.
時に人は運命づけられ、呪いのような
And doomed to bear a responsibility from birth. This is not an anime. You didn't make it to be an anime. Now, when Kenny Omega was there for 10 years and building up his credibility, then I would not be saying any of this. But because he just jumped right back into the saddle of things, it's sort of like, bro, you're not this big anime villain anymore.
な責任と共に生まれてくる。
That's what he said. I cannot escape it.
はそれから逃げることはできない。隠れることもできない。
I cannot hide from it. And I cannot die.
死ぬこともできない。
When I thought my time was finally over,
自分が終わったかと思った時に、俺は
I saw a brilliant light.
光を見た。フィニックスの本能のよう。
And like a phoenix, from the flames I was reborn. Bro, it doesn't have to be this drama-filled. Gabe Kid is a rough and tough guy that fights, brawls, scratches, and kicks the shit out of people. He's Stone Cold Steve Austin, dude. Like, man, it's not like that deep.
な、それが俺を生き返ら。
Kenny Omega goes on to say, and I thought, why must I continue? Yeah, why did you think that?
そして俺が思った。なぜまだ自分が進まなければならないのか。それは
This is his response to that question of, why must I continue? He says, it's because of you and people like you.
お前や、お前のような奴らが俺の作り上げた。
Who destroyed the beauty I created. What? Gabriel Kidd was probably not thinking about you, dude. Like, he was not even using your moves to like try to call you out, to try to be like, yo, I want to take on Kenny Omega, so I'm going to do the one-winged angel. I'm going to do the V-trigger. Gabe Kidd is a breakout star who solidified himself by doing stuff on his own, by winning his matches, by beating the shit out of people, by scaring people, by being Gabe Kid, an unhinged madman. So what beauty did you create other than like your 5 to 7 star matches, other than like your feuds with other wrestlers, Bullet Club? I know that's going to come up, but like Finn Balor created Bullet Club.
美しいものをぶち壊したからだ。But I'm a madman. I'm a madman. I'm a madman. でしょ？違う。
So you heard him say that using Gabriel Kidd's catchphrase of "I'm a madman," and in Japanese, Kenny says, "No, you're not." Yes, he is. Like, do you not understand what makes a person a madman? How can you say that he's not a madman?
お前はただ弱いだけだ。
He goes on to say in Japanese, "You're weak," meaning Gabe Kid.
俺の作り
You're riding on the legacy
上げたものの上であぐらを
of what I created. You didn't create it. You might have transformed it a little bit more and make another iteration of Bullet Club. But first of all, Finn Balor has claim to that line. Like, if Finn Balor had a problem with the way that David Finlay, first of all, the new leader of Bullet Club, who's doing a fantastic job, if Finn Balor had a problem with the way that Bullet Club has been running, I think he'll, tell Triple H, like, yo, let's get that New Japan partnership and let me show this kid, Gabe Kid, how it truly is. Like, if he had a problem, he'll be the first person to say it. I don't know why Kenny Omega over here is trying to take credit for Bullet Club, where, like, he decided to create two different Bullet Clubs. A Bullet Club in the US of A that totally bit him in the ass, even though it helped get new fans, new eyes, new viewers. But in the end, like, it was a really bad decision to do and just get kicked out. Like, you got kicked out. So,
を書いてるだけだ。お前は
Kenny Omega goes on to say in Japanese, "You've managed to create a group of sheep around you." What group did he create? Is he talking about, like, there's David Finlay, there's Drilla Maloney, there's Clark Connors, there's now Sonata, there's Jake Lee, once Alex Coughlin, who's not retired. How are they all sheep? You're making it. Kenny is making it seem. I don't want to say you're. I want to make sure I use names here. Kenny Omega is making it seem as if, like, Gabe Kid is the one that's running Bullet Club.
は周りのやつらに甘やけされてるんだけだ。やつらを
Kenny Omega says in Japanese, "You think they agree with you and they support you?"
はお前を応援し、お前に共感し
One second.
ているんだろう。だが、その
He goes on to say, what those fans really want to see is strength. They've been seeing strength. Gabe Kid, like, has been putting his strength on the line for, like, every single match that he does, even going over to Pro Wrestling Noah and ruffling some feathers over there. His strength is on display every single time.
ファンたちが本当に見たいのが強さ。
Kenny Omega goes on to say, "So let's see how strong you are." Kenny, really? Kenny. This is how you know he probably has not been watching, because even though sometimes anime villains could get very delusional into their own world and their own bubble by thinking that they are the best at everything, and they're like, well, let's see how strong you really are, kid. Like, there could have been another viewpoint to this, being like, oh, the only reason why you're strong, Gabe Kid, is because everybody else was weaker than you, but you never took on someone like me, who is Kenny Omega, the god of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Like, that's a better way of trying to position Kenny to be that villain, but not be a delusional villain where you just have to say shit for the sake of saying shit and just changing things up. Like, Gabriel Kidd has been doing amazing. He has been showing his strength. Kenny Omega could have attacked the fact that because everybody that lost to Gabriel Kidd is because they were weak, and he can sort of manipulate the situation to be like, Gabe, you might think that you're tough and your strength and you're strong and all that, but everybody else was weaker because you've never faced a god like me. Something like that, man. Like, use all of his wins. When I say all of his wins, I mean Gabriel Kidd's wins. Use all of Gabriel Kidd's wins against him so that way he could sort of doubt himself, even though that's not going to happen, but sort of doubt himself so that way people could get on board and be like, yeah, Kenny Omega is the god of New Japan Pro Wrestling, and let kayfabe live for just a couple of moments. But no, we have to go the stupid route of, oh, you think they support you? You think those fans care about you? You think that you have all this strength? Well, let's put it to the test, man. Let's see how strong you are. That is so kindergarten level type of writing and type of villain delusional that it's like it's 2025 now, dude. Like, you should have been watching him in 2024, and you can see that Gabe Kidd is one of the breakout stars. But no, you still want to like be the anime villain. It's not working here.
お前の力を見せてみろ。そしてお前が
Kenny Omega says, let's see that spirit.
いつもいているスピリットとやらを見せて
That you like to talk about so much. It's there.
みろ。なぜならば
Because I just don't see it in you.
何も見えないんだからさ。
He took off his glasses so that way he could like look directly into the camera, into your soul, and stare into your soul. But it's not working, Kenny. It's not working. Kenny goes on to say, I have given you an opportunity on a platter. That's because, you know, that's, you know what?
これは俺がお前にくれてやったチャンスですよ。
Then Kenny Omega goes on to say, are you scared? If you don't know the history of Gabe Kidd and the big issue, personal issue he had, and he survived through his big personal issue that he talked about very briefly, but I know the whole entire story. He's not scared of anything. Gabriel Kidd is not scared of anything. Gabriel Kidd has a second chance at life, the same way that Kenny Omega has a second chance of life. This is why also I don't like this matchup, and I don't like the message that Kenny Omega is sending to Gabe Kidd, is because Gabe Kidd is a real one. He lives in the present. He understands life a little bit more now because he has his second chance of life. Kenny Omega has his second chance of life, but Kenny Omega still wants to play within the kayfabe universe. And it's such a mishmash or a mix match. It just doesn't mesh well anymore because it's like you guys should be talking about maybe personal stuff that happened to you and why making the comeback was beneficial for you, or why you're making a comeback, but then you want to be like, oh, I handed you this opportunity on a platter. Bro, you just came back from recovery. Like, what opportunity is there if you haven't been fighting matches, getting wins, making story, making, you know, memories and moments and all the stuff that we love about professional wrestling? We're just jumping to, hey, Gabe, I gave you an opportunity on a platter, so come fight me. It's like, what? Sir, what happened to, you know, building up the matches? Or at least like interfere in the matches of Gabriel Kidd and, you know, doing the small little things so that way the whole delusional anime villain arc can make sense. But no, Kenny Omega, Gabe Kidd is not scared.
ビビってるのか？逃げる
Here comes Kenny Omega with the kindergarten level kind of dialogue here. He just says in Japanese, do you want to run away? Gabriel Kidd never fucking runs away from a fight. Gabriel Kidd is war ready. He's right there by your side, and he will be kicking ass alongside everybody else. This is why this doesn't work, because if you've seen his work throughout 2024, all of these questions are fucking stupid.
したいのか？心配するな。
He says, don't worry, Gabe. If you can't handle the pressure,
プレッシャーに耐えられなければ、また
I'm sure there's room back on the psych ward. Of course, because a villain always has to get that jab at the end. Want to be that super villain for like no fucking reason. No reason at all, you know? In my mind, there's no reason for that. That's a very good punchline, but now, you know, you just awoken? Yeah, he just awoken, you know, maybe an extra side of Gabe Kid, this madman.
精神病院に帰ればいいんじゃん Until next time, Gabe. Goodbye. Mwah. And good night. Bang.
All right, so that was the end of that. And, you know, people might think that I'm going a little too overboard with my reaction on it, with the things that I say, but you have to look at things of making sense. And if you're not paying attention to what Gabe Kid has been doing for 2024, then of course it's going to sound and feel like this is so different. Like, why are we doing this? Gabe Kid is a real one, like I said. Kenny Omega should be a real one. When he's not in the Kenny Omega character, he is a real one. He will go on Twitch. He will give his opinions, answers, feelings to whatever the chat is asking him. And, you know, it's to be like two different Kennys. I think that for a Kenny Omega versus Gabe Kid, I would have accepted this if we didn't do the anime villain arc. If Kenny Omega still, you know, presented himself as the best bout machine, but does he need to go into the anime villain arc for this? When this should just be a special singles match to be like, I don't know, I really don't want to say who's the best, because AEW has run that into the ground of like, oh, we're fighting to see who's the best. Like, yeah, you know, when there's just so much improvement that could be done, but it just doesn't happen. It really doesn't happen. Okay, now we're going to be listening to Gabe Kid explodes on Kenny Omega and AEW. This video has been making the rounds over on Twitter and or X, and I agree with him, but again, people want to tell me that I'm being worked and kayfabe. Like, listen, it does not matter at this point if we're being worked or whatever. I'm discussing it because I'm discussing the storytelling aspects of this and what works, what doesn't work, what could be improved, and what we need for sort of, I don't want to say new age wrestlers because that doesn't define Gabe Kid, but Gabe Kid decided to make the ultimate comeback, the ultimate turnaround, and I just feel like my brain wants to just apply the new age tag to him, but he's doing things very similar to what Stone Cold Steve Austin did with Vince and everybody else, to be that anti-hero, the antagonist, the guy that would kick your ass, and you know he would kick your ass. So, you know, this is more personal rather than more, let's play anime. And sometimes in wrestling, you need those two different kinds of storytelling elements. Those that want to play anime could play anime and tell the best story, and you're like, oh my god, that is like the best moment, that I connected with that. I can feel that emotion if like two wrestlers want to go the anime route, like let them go the anime route. But when you have someone like Gabriel Kidd, he's not going to allow you to try and go that anime route because he lives in the present, he lives in the now, in the current, and in real life. He's taking real life and making it art. So it's two different ways of storytelling. Sometimes this works. Sometimes it could work. But Kenny Omega wants to be number one and wants to have that main character syndrome that nobody has told Kenny Omega that, like, bro, I don't think right now is a good time to be the main character. The main character is Gabe Kid. So I'm going to play the video. I'm going to react to the video the same way that I reacted to the Kenny Omega message to Gabriel Kidd by pausing, giving my thoughts. And of course, this is in English, so I don't really have to like do that much.
That guy was messing.
By the way, I'm just gonna play it back again, but in the video it does say what happened in Osaka with a question mark. So here we go.
That guy was messing up my name when he knew what my name was. I don't around with that shit. Before I'm a pro wrestler, I'm a man at the end of the day. Let's get that clear for anyone watching. And it's not for anyone watching, that is how I live my life. I've been through enough shit where I don't have to put up with that. And rather than, what did I do? I went ghost on social media for a couple of days. Then I turn on Twitter and I see some Tokyo Sports article calling me unprofessional. So I think that's the answer to that. Talk about me being unprofessional. Well, we could have been pulled into a room and talked about it. But the fact is that you got slapped up like a bitch and you ran to the press instantly. And there was an article out that night. So what else do you want me to say on that?
So that is how it happened. But sometimes people don't want to have conversations. They rather have the incident happen and then run to the press and be like, I'm a victim, blah, blah, blah. Like, I didn't do anything. I was trying to come to New Japan Pro Wrestling again and I didn't know how people would feel and blah, blah, blah. It's supposed to create drama. I get it. But at the same time, it's like, if they would have had the conversation, maybe we would have had just a very special singles match that didn't have like anything really, really attached to it, because obviously this is very personal for Gabe Kid. For Kenny Omega, it's more for like, I'm the anime villain, believe in me.
My man, he was out there to do his job on that day. We're in a company that he doesn't even work for anymore.
Exactly. See what I mean? He doesn't work for New Japan Pro Wrestling anymore. He got kicked out. He got kicked out of Bullet Club. He got kicked out of New Japan Pro Wrestling because the management did not like what was happening back when the Elite was here and they were in Bullet Club. So the fact that he wants to come back in to be like, oh my God, hey guys, remember me? I'm just going to rub elbows and try to blend in, but he didn't really blend in. But yeah, it's like, bro, you don't work here anymore.
I mean, he said it himself that he wants to come back at New Japan because New Japan is the best wrestling company in the world. That was a personal situation. I was ticked that he was my name on purpose when he already knew what my name was. He wrote it online before. So don't try and bury me like that. All these guys, MJF, Kenny, they try and look cool. They try and bury you, look cool to a bunch of people that aren't cool either, so they can look cool. It's like king of the nerds. It's embarrassing. I mean, the whole of the AEW is like that in general, but...
I did not know that he mentioned MJF. And let's quickly just mention and talk about MJF for a second. Do you know how big of a star MJF could have been when he was talking all that shit about New Japan Pro Wrestling and New Japan Pro wrestlers, and they have yet to do anything with all of that? If they would have capitalized during that time when MJF was saying all that stuff, he would be an even bigger star and people would talk about him. But now MJF has become very mid and definitely riding that Hollywood sort of high and whatnot. And it's just not hitting anymore. Like, man, they would have had so much money. They would have been making stuff, like they would have been making moments and memories, because the only thing that we have to really talk about when it comes to MJF and memories is MJF versus Cody Rhodes in that whole entire story. MJF versus CM Punk. Those are like the two biggest memories that pop out at this very moment as I'm doing this recording. But just imagine if they would have said, hey, can you send MJF over here for maybe a tour and have him fight the Japanese guys and have him talk shit and have him, like, be the bad villain that represents AEW over there? Like, it would have been money making. But no, it didn't happen, man. Now I have to turn the question back where Kenny said to Gabe Kid, are you scared? I think that AEW was scared to just send the people that talk shit the most over to New Japan, because sometimes, well, you know what? Most of the time, the New Japan guys show out better than what we see on AEW?
I was trying to be courteous, and then you've got rats backstage in secret cameras, and then the press jumped in when that wasn't even supposed to be a situation. They should have off back to the ring, but instead they wanted to stay and get in there, whatever. But the whole thing's embarrassing, to be honest.
So the next question is, what is a professional?
But you go up and you do your job. You got paid, you got flown in from America. So you'll say, arigato gozaimasu, you'll say domo. You got paid to fly in from America to cut a promo in the ring and go home. I came to talk to you man to man on that shit, and you decided to make it into something bigger than it ever was. Then people start sparking, oh, we're gonna see this. To be honest, I wanted to batter MJF in the Tokyo Dome for talking shit on me as well. That little
Oh, see, that would have been great money.
Nerd. Backed him up before I back him up again. But here we are. And then he wants to go on an interview and say, oh, if the fans want it. The fans only want it because you ran to the press and started talking shit on me, put it in people's minds. I was happy with a slap backstage, double leg through some chairs, and that's that. I would have gone home happy, but...
That's true. I can see that. I can see like Gabe Kid, like if he ever gets into like a squabble, it would just be like, oh, I'm good now, make sure you don't do that shit again. Don't step up to me and then call it a night. Like I can see that. I can see him, doing that shit in real life. Be like, yeah, man, next time, watch your fucking mouth or whatever. And then he'll go on to his hotel room. And that's all it should have been, The reason why fans want it is because fans don't know when to accept that Kenny doesn't need to wrestle anymore. Kenny doesn't need to prove himself anymore. Gabe Kidd, on the other hand, even though he has proven himself in 2024 and has become a breakout star and has done wonderful, he still needs to, progress, go forward, create some new memories, create some new stories, and he's doing fantastic on that. He has all the check boxes checked off. Kenny Omega has all the accolades. What else is there for him to do in New Japan Pro Wrestling at this stage of not only his life, his health, and his career? It's fans that are delusional, that still believe that Kenny Omega is the Kenny Omega of old, where he was in great shape, giving out 5 to 7 star matches, was able to basically do everything that he can, go from 0 to 100. But you guys are forgetting that he had that health problem, the same health problem that Brock Lesnar had. Why are you still saying, we want Kenny, we want the cleaner, when you guys should be like, bro, you've given us everything of your life. Now go live however you want to go live. Go have some fun. Go have a vacation. Like, it's okay. Professional wrestling is better. You made it better. You did what you got to do. You gave us memories. Now it's time for you to have a vacation. But going back to the Kenny Omega video, everybody in that comment section was fucking delusional. Like, they were delusional. So Kenny does this to not only get a buzz and get fans talking about it, but Kenny doesn't know what else to do. Even though he is a gamer, and I'm going to put air quotes around that, even though he's a gamer and stuff, like, let him go explore some other hobbies that, he can be helpful in and build those communities, because he really doesn't need this match. Gabe Kidd does not need this match. He really doesn't. Gabe Kidd needs other opponents to elevate him. Beating Kenny Omega is not really going to elevate Gabriel Kidd. Like, where are we going to go with this in 3 months? Where are we going to go with this, like, the week after? Like, what's the next thing going to happen? And I know that those might be, like, premature questions because we don't know the outcome. We don't know what's going to be happening. But it still needs to be discussed and thought about, because there's no, like, next in line after Kenny Omega. Like, who else can Gabe sort of face? Like, he's been facing everybody in New Japan Pro Wrestling. He's been going to Noah and stuff like that. Like, I just don't think that this helps Gabe in any kind of way.
Regardless, listen, I don't care about this Kenny Omega touch. Whatever you think you're doing, giving me a match at the Dome, I don't need you. I don't need you because he's unhappy at his workplace. Well, leave then. You're the president there. You're a vice president there. If you're not happy, f off.
So the next question is, what can Kenny expect?
I expect he'll get some receipts. I expect you know, I agreed to do the match because, like I say, I am a professional, but he's gonna catch some serious licks in there regardless. Like, I'm gonna f up for what he did because this was never in my, I never envisioned this or saw things going down like this, so I'll do the match, but he's gonna know that he's fucked up, and I'm going there to hurt him at the end of the day. Listen, people want to talk about me being unprofessional, being unsafe. Yeah, I am unsafe, very unsafe. I go out there and try and hurt people. I go out there and try and break people's necks, try and break people's legs. Look what I did to Eddie Kingston. Some other guy from Anthony Henry from Ring of Honor, I put him out as well. I didn't even know until about 2 weeks ago. He's been out for a month with a torn bicep. I hurt Hanare, I hurt Sonada, I've hurt Goto. I could list 10 names right now. I'm not like any other wrestler on this planet. I don't give a f what these nerds on the internet say about me. I'm a madman, clinically insane. 4 police cars outside of my house. My mother called the police on me because she was so worried about what I was gonna do. So why the f think I care about what any of these little nerds say about me? Try it. I dare you to try something when we see each other. Even if I see you before, I dare you to try something. Because this business is full of pussies, little bum suckers, all the people in his company queuing outside Tony Khan's office. Oh, I can't do that, I can't do this. You're a bunch of egotistical nerds is what you are, who've never got any pussy. It's embarrassing, the whole thing's embarrassing. I don't want anything to do with AEW. If New Japan, this is my plan, if New Japan want to take it to the next level and regain the top spot as the top wrestling company, to off AEW.
Yes. We need this to happen. We need New Japan Pro Wrestling to break away from AEW. AEW is bringing New Japan Pro Wrestling down, and I do not care how many feathers that ruffles, because every time that somebody tries to, come back at me, they have no substance. They can't tell me why it's a good partnership. Just because that they share, the Japanese guys, but Tony Khan came in and gave the Japanese guys money. So now you don't have to support New Japan Pro Wrestling. You don't have to get a membership to NJPW World because Tony Khan can buy the wrestlers and put them on one show. So now all you have to do every single Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, well, no longer Friday, apparently Rampage is done, but on those 3 days, you're able to see the Japanese stars that New Japan properly built up. Is New Japan perfect? No. No company is perfect. No wrestling company is perfect. But that does not mean that you go and blatantly and obviously buy out the top talent and talk with the talent and be like, oh yeah, well, if you want, you could just sign this contract right here. I'll give you whatever money you want. But money eventually runs out. I will say that again. Money eventually runs out. But yeah, Gabe Kid is totally right that in order for New Japan Pro Wrestling to survive is to break away from AEW. And I would definitely love if New Japan started doing a partnership with WWE. Not to be so heavy in the partnership, but just a little bit, a little give and take,
Because they're just embarrassing nerds that aren't helping us. They take, don't give anything back, so f*** them. I don't give a shit if AEW want to sign me, so I can go and turn up to TV, be Tony's new toy. go on Dynamite, have a couple of matches, and then sit and eat catering for 23 weeks, doing all, flying to Toledo, Ohio, to do what? A show in front of a crowd that have seen 5 hours of wrestling already. Like, I have no interest in that whatsoever. Wrestling to me, I'm a professional, but wrestling means more to me than these guys, and I think it's about time that someone with New Japan stepped up and had some f***ing balls. We are getting our pants pulled down and dogged by the rest of the wrestling world because of being professional. So maybe it is time to be a little bit unprofessional. Maybe it is time to talk a bit of shit. And if they have anything to say about it, they can come and chat to me. I have no problem pulling Tony Khan into an office and telling him what's what. I have no problem reading him his rights and telling him what a idiot he is. So that's that.
That is something. And again, Gabe Kid is right. Gabe Kid is right. Like, how do you end up coming onto the wrestling scene and basically breaking out? And while, yes, I do believe that there should be always levels of professionalism, sometimes you do have to break the rules. Sometimes you do gotta be a madman like Gabe Kid and do what you gotta do and show people that you mean business, because for some reason, since the dawn of time, actions speak louder than words, but just don't like abuse and overdo it. The Young Bucks made a whole business about breaking the rules and doing what they wanted to do and stay the course and become memes and also do meta-like things in professional wrestling and changed the landscape of professional wrestling and how we see and view the indies. And then now it's spiraled out into something that's really not so much controllable, if that makes sense, because of how things play out, and wrestling fans are just like, let them do whatever they want because, you know, guys, we have to enjoy all wrestling. You know, that kind of stuff sort of spiraled everything out of control. But if you need to send a message, like I said, actions speak louder than words when you have been professional time and time again. But again, just don't overdo it or abuse it.
Listen, Tyson.
He used his real name. Gabriel Kidd called him Tyson. Oh my God. By the way, just a really off topic, Kenny Omega does not look like a Tyson. Okay. I'm just saying that Kenny looks like Kenny. You know, if his parents would have named him Kenny, that's what Kenny would look like. But to find out that his real name is Tyson, it's like, bro, you don't look like what Tyson would look like, what a Tyson would look like, you know. I just wanted to mention that.
Clear Tyson, you little rat. I don't need no Kenny Omega touch. I don't need anyone from AEW to do shit to me. I am my own man. I lost my mind staying here for 1.5 years. I went crazy, clinically insane. This is more to me than these other guys. This means more to me. This is my life. Do you think I'm gonna let you come in and, because of your boss and your position here, let you just come in and beat me? You must be madder than me if you think that's gonna happen. I'm gonna do what it takes to make sure that New Japan is seen on top, whether anyone in the office or your office or anyone likes it or not. I'm gonna do what I need to do to bring New Japan to the top. So
And that was the end of that. It has become very, very personal for Gabe Kid. And like I said, even if Gabe Kid wins this, and I hope that he wins this, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything. It's not going to give Gabe Kid anything other than Gabe Kid being like, he beat Kenny Omega, and that's an accomplishment and an accolade on his record and his career. Which I totally get. Like, wrestlers should end up getting like the accolades and the accomplishments. But Kenny Omega just walked back in. He's damaged goods. And, you know, this is just going to be a fight. There's not going to be anything to it. And no, it doesn't need a title. It doesn't need anything else of significance. Sometimes personal problems can definitely make a really good match. However, this was over a fucking brawl and Kenny Omega crying to the press and someone recording it so that way they could send it off to the dirt sheets. And even if I'm getting worked, you know, because I'm repeating stuff that like happens in wrestling no matter what, and that's how storytelling happens, that's how this happens. The idea is that Kenny Omega wanted to be a victim so bad and wanted to get this match rather than having an easy match with somebody as his comeback match, which should have been Kenny Omega and Tanahashi teaming up for Wrestle Dynasty to face the Young Bucks. Two people that have hurt Kenny Omega, kicked Kenny Omega out of the Elite, and basically joked about his intestinal problem. So that would have been a better matchup than having Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega, because Kenny Omega needs an easy match to make sure that he is healthy enough in order to do what he has to do in a wrestling match and not end up getting anything wrong or damaged. Like, you don't start off with antagonizing a Madman. You don't do that. And for Gabe Kidd to give us that information of him being clinically diagnosed as a insane person, as a madman, is very interesting to character development, story development, layers, and all of that. And no, I do not want to diminish that in any way, shape, or form, but I just don't know. He doesn't really talk about it as much. So, you know, that was very like, oh, interesting that he would divulge that information, which makes it a little bit more personal and changes the direction of the story. And it just changes the direction of, you know, again, why is this match happening? Well, with all of that being said, I will be watching the match. I will be reviewing the match, and we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. Those are my takes on both of those videos. And again, like I said, we do not need Gabe Kidd versus Kenny Omega. It's not going to do anything for them. But other than that, ladies and gentlemen, if you have been enjoying this episode and you enjoy my takes, please make sure to just take a moment of your time to share it out with a friend of yours. Let them know that Marie Shadows talks about professional wrestling. And the Square Circle podcast is very, very, very grateful for everyone that listens all around the world. And again, share it out on Spotify. And if you follow the Spotify channel, that would be fantastic. Share it out on YouTube. Make sure you leave a comment, like the video. And if you want to sign up for more wrestling content, please make sure to sign up at marieshadows.substack.com. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to this episode of the Square Circle podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and I'll see you guys on the next one.